Demon Slayer, a story we all enjoy and love, but is it flawless, or are there plot holes? Well guys, here are the 10 craziest Demon Slayer plot holes that may not seem like much at first, but the more you think about them, the weirder it gets. Have you ever wondered why Tamayo never told Tanjiro or anyone else about Yoriichi? It's not like she simply forgot, right? Defeating Muzan has been her only goal, and yet she forgot the only man who has ever come close to achieving that goal. How does that work? Especially when Tanjiro was wearing Yoriichi's earrings. Yes, we can argue that she only saw him that one time, and she also never got his name. But the thing is, Tamayo didn't even mention anything. Not even the idea that someone using a peculiar fighting style once brought Muzan to his knees. This becomes even more strange when you realize that it was Yoriichi's actions that first freed her from Muzan's control. Let's talk about one of the biggest plot holes of the recent season, the Swordsmith Village. In Chapter 103, it was mentioned that Yoriichi Type 0 was created in the Sengoku era. We know that the Sengoku era was over 300 years ago, which means that the Swordsmith Village has also been around for at least just as long. We also know how strict the Slayers are about the village secrecy, so how was Gyoko able to find it? Now, it isn't about why the demons found the location. Of course they did. Nothing remains hidden forever. It's more about the lack of official explanation about how Gyoko managed to find the Swordsmith Village. How did he do that? These kind of questions must have been important at that time, so that the swordsmiths could avoid another similar incident. Moving on, we have the death of Tanjiro's family members. The story begins when they are brutally attacked and killed by Muzan, but why did he go all the way up to a lone house on an isolated mountain in the middle of nowhere? The thing is, we already know the reason. We know that he knew about the Hinogami Kagura and wanted to try and turn practitioners of the sun breathing into demons. However, remember the first time Tanjiro and Muzan came across each other in Asakusa? Muzan was visibly surprised when he saw those Hanafuda earrings on Tanjiro's ears. His PTSD was triggered, so much so that he didn't even personally finish Tanjiro off. No, he sent 2 other demons to do the job for him. If that is the case, if he is this scared of the sun breathers, then why would he personally go all the way up to a secluded house on an isolated mountain and intentionally put himself at risk? It makes no sense that he would go all the way up to them, but then not even finish off Tanjiro by himself. Was it a coincidence that he was on that mountain? Why did he think that it was a good idea to slaughter a modest family of coal sellers? It's worth noting that Tanjiro's family has always been coal sellers. He himself was quite surprised when he learned that the Kamados are actually relevant in the long-standing lore of Demon Slayers. So this also makes you question how Muzan learned that they are actually keepers of the sun-breathing technique. While we're on this topic, the breathing techniques themselves can be a bit inconsistent. We know that it was Yoriichi who introduced the Demon Slayers to this concept of basing your swordsmanship on an element, but then you have Inosuke, a self-made man who learnt it all by himself. Is Inosuke an outlier, or is it more like how the total concentration breathing isn't as revolutionary of a concept as we're told to think it is? Not to mention how it's already been established that breathing styles don't produce elemental effects, they're just mimicking the movements of an element. Doesn't this mean that the breathing techniques can be created by anyone? They're merely man-made combat styles after all. This makes you wonder about what makes the sun breathing so special. How can it stop the demons from regenerating? Isn't it just a fighting style? It's not like Tanjiro and Yoriichi were actually cloaking their swords in aura of the sun. Plus, this idea also clashes with the Demon Slayer mark. On one hand, you have man-made combat styles, and on the other hand, you have a mark that gives you superhuman awareness and physical abilities. Just what is technical and what is supernatural? Maybe it would have been better if the breathing styles were actually about elemental prowess after all. The demons get to use blood demon art,
That doesn't seem fair.
and the Demon Slayers should be able to play with things like fire and water as well. And why are the Demon Slayers not officially sanctioned by the government? What's going on? The threat of the demons is bigger and more real than any foreign invasion whatsoever, and yet the government has taken no steps to deal with it? Again, we can argue that it's because the government and the people simply do not know about the demons. Hence, they also don't know about the Demon Slayers. But we need not look any further than Guillaume's flashback to realize that this is not the case. As we saw in Chapter 135, Guillaume said that the threat of demons was very real where he lived, so of course, if one village knows, then there must be others that know as well, right? It's not like we're super back in time because there are literally trains and other modern things in the show. So why didn't the government do anything? Instead, why is it a secret billionaire family dealing with the threat unlike anything the world has ever seen before? Now, since we're on the subject of things that lack an official explanation, there is something to be said about Nezuko's hypnosis. In Chapter 11, Yoriichi told Tanjiro he was able to hypnotize Nezuko into seeing all humans as her family. But what we don't know is why his hypnosis was so effective. Was it because Nezuko is just a genuinely good person? In that case, there's many wholesome good people throughout the story that could have also kept themselves from harming humans if they were under a similar spell. So why wasn't hypnotization used more often in the story? Next, we have to debunk the idea that only Muzan is able to turn you into a demon. In Chapter 11, Yoriichi told Tanjiro that only one demon has the power to turn humans into demons. Well, as we saw with Gyutaro and Daki, the one who turned them into demons was Doma. Yes, it's true that they didn't immediately become upper-ranked demons. Muzan must have also given them blood at some point. But even so, the one who initially turned them into demons was Doma. Kagaku, on the other hand, was given Muzan's blood by Kokushibo, which is why he was able to become an upper moon right away. Of course, we can consider that everyone shares Muzan's blood, so maybe Doma turned Gyutaro and Daki into demons by giving them Muzan's blood? But if that is the case, then all other demons can turn others into demons as well, right? This breaks the idea that only Muzan can turn you into a demon. And we haven't even gotten to how Tamayo can also turn you into a demon. And if we're talking about Muzan, we gotta mention the blue spider lilies. Those two go together like PB&J. It is by far the biggest, most important mystery in the entire story. It is central to the lore, and is the very reason why Muzan became a demon in the first place. However, the story ends without actually explaining this element. The mystery is left unanswered.
I have no answers now.
It plays into why and how were Tanjiro and Nezuko so different. Why was Nezuko the only demon who can conquer the sun? Why was Tanjiro's body so well suited for the sun breathing? And why did he also immediately conquer the sun after becoming a demon? Yes, I tackled this in my Demon Slayer Theories video, and I talked about how their mother made them blue spider lily tea. But in the end, the thing is that we lack an official explanation. Then there's the final selection. When you think about it, isn't it weird how you have to go through a Hunger Games-like setup just to become a Demon Slayer? What is the motivation for people to join this Demon Slayer Hunger Games? Unlike the Hunger Games, where you're either forced to join or promised riches and fame, the majority of people didn't know about the dangers of demons. So why join?
Of course. I love killing.
The final selection is not government sanctioned. It's literally just a private organization that's been dealing with them for the past 10 centuries, which means that they also have limited human capital. Imagine losing every single member of your family and your friends to a test. It starts looking even worse when you realize that the final selection isn't even the only way to become a Slayer. Many of the Hashira were personally recruited by the Ubi-Ushiki state. When you look at it like this, it becomes clear how little the organization values their potential recruits.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
The passing rate became lower and lower, with the Hand Demon being there for 47 years before Tanjiro arrived. But the Demon Slayer's intelligence didn't realize it.